let's just go and get to the first question, defining my values. I think the first and foremost is honesty. Um, the reason is that when I went through college, I thought I was very clever, I was very arrogant, and I didn't see, and all my life, but particularly in college, though, I didn't see anything wrong with manipulating, um, manipulating reality to just make it fit how I wanted it to. And I never hurt anyone but myself, essentially. But essentially, when sooner or later that fabricated reality snaps back into real reality, and when it does, it hurts. And if the only thing I ever do in my life is just remember that lesson, I think I'll be better off than I was in college. So without going too much, the next value I would say is individual responsibility. Um, Basically, anything that I'm capable of doing, I want to be able to do, and anything outside my control, I let it go, um, because the world's a lot bigger than what just us or just me, as to say. So the individual responsibility is really important. My next value is more of a quandary. It's basically how you deal with the unknown. And so what I mean with that is that the quality of your life is reflected in the quality of questions you ask them. So as an example, Warren Buffett, the billionaire investor, has money problems. The hobo under the bridge also has money problems. Warren Buffett has better money problems than the hobo under the bridge because fundamentally how he deals with money and the questions he asks regarding money are different. My fourth, I'm going to say my fourth value is focus. And this is also going to be my first leadership value. And the best leaders in my life have brought focus and clarity to chaos and disorder. Uh, Oftentimes, the problem that's in front of us is a problem we can deal with. We've simply, we when we've clarified it. One of the Roosevelts said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. And it's often that unknown that scares us. And what a good leader does, this also is going to go into the fifth, my fifth leadership value, is that a good leader gets the individual out of themselves, out of this self inflection, into outwards, from away from themselves to an outward vision that is common with the leader. And so, and going back to fear, so my fifth value, leadership value, is clarity, direction, giving form to what was previously formless, redefining the problem, asking the simple question of like, hey, maybe we can look at this differently, getting the people that's around them to get out of themselves and get on the same page as your vision. I think that's what's important in a leadership. My sixth quality is going to have to be time. Just simply understand the value of time. It's like comparison, like basic, think about them and compare them with. And just as I lead into that, and so going into, actually I have one more quick, so one more quality, I guess, before I get strengths and weaknesses. So I said the second most important thing is time, as far as the resources go. The number one thing would have to be people. People are fundamental. Like I don't want to like skew words, but people are the most important part of any system, of any structure, any organization. People are I mean, the people of an organization and the relationships that they have with each other are what really define that organization. First, strengths and weaknesses. I'm pretty strong at verbal communication. I dare say I'm charismatic. I am ready to jump in. One of my only weaknesses in verbal communication is that I have to be mindful of not out speaking the other person, or like just trampling over the other person with verbatim with words, because I, particularly when I get excited, I can be very impulsive and just excited and ready to jump into it, enthusiastic, which has its strengths and weaknesses. One of my clear weaknesses is writing. My writing, for the most part, I would say writing takes probably 8 times longer for me to produce a document of similar quality to another person. That's just a self-assessment, but writing, that the creative writing process takes me a fortnight and then some. So it's a very slow process to me. So I'm just that's a weakness. I've tried to tackle it in the past, and I will continue to try to tackle it. Most of my current strategies involve pivoting away from it. Essentially, instead of putting 80% of my energy to make something slightly better, I've been trying to focus on using my words, which is something I've worked on for a couple years now, ever since I left high school. I've been trying to work to refine my speech, to temper my words, and improve my message and communications. You quit saying especially when I'm going to be recording. So obviously some obvious place. I would say that I'm a fairly creative individual. I would say I'm resourceful. I'm very quick to pivot when I see a rock and there's a path right next to it. Basically something I'm constantly practicing and as a weakness, and that I'm constantly working and trying to get growth in. We're getting a little mince there. Would be organization. Organization is a pretty big weakness for me. It's another one of those areas with focus and clarity and conciseness that I'm having to continue to work on and improve upon. I am generally very optimistic, energetic. I love being here. This is without doubt the best organization I've ever been part of, and I wholeheartedly believe in the mission. And I believe that this is fundamentally doing a lot of good for a lot of people. So it's definitely something I want to continue to be a part of. I try to be appreciative. I try to be thankful for what I've experienced, the mistakes I've made, and how I'm going to work harder to make sure they don't happen. Because there's nothing wrong in mistakes. It's only when you repeat the same mistake or you make a mistake without learning anything from it is when it's fundamentally not helpful. I like to I've always been considered a pretty good teacher. I like to use examples. I try to take the abstract and make it concrete for someone in some way. For myself and for many other people, we often need these anchoring points to basically make sure we're on the same page, to make sure that we're but just the 3 is perfectly 3 because it just only has an ideal. But we can use the concrete example of 3 apples to display the ideal in a way that abstraction becomes real. And I often try to employ very similar strategies when I'm doing code, math, and work with others. Is I try to use these examples, and then work backwards to the abstraction, because essentially that's pretty much how all of human history works, from my understanding. We basically have something concrete, we build on it, and then we reach a problem that then requires an abstraction. So fundamentally, brains seem to be effective towards taking the concrete, going to the abstract. It's a natural progression, and I try to take advantage of that. And so the virtuoso brought up some really cool stuff that I would pretty much agree with. Self-starter, creative yet practical, spontaneous yet rational, have an overall relaxed nature. I'm not going to be in your face. I'm not going to be in people's faces. I'm relaxed for the most part. Try to be anyway. And some of my weaknesses that I'm also bringing to the table that I haven't already mentioned is I can be really stubborn. Something that I constantly have to revisit is my main objective, my focusing goal, my intended desire, very specific, very conciseness. If I'm not careful, I can get very wrapped up in one little thing and spend a lot of time on it because I haven't given up. Since joining Lambda, I've made great strides in that area, but it can still be worked on. I can be insensitive. I have spent a long portion, 5 years plus, trying to temper my speech. But there's still times that I can come off very condescending, basically arrogant, condescending, insensitive, and I don't mean to be. And I'm essentially just trying to explain the ideal, and when I'm talking these ideals, these abstractions, I try to avoid it from people because I can be pretty sensitive to people's feelings, and so that's just something that I might. And easily bored. I've actually found being easily bored here at Lambda to be a strength, because often what that means is that I'm not engaged to the highest potential use of my production of the time unit. So I've definitely found that to actually be a strength. And Yeah, and I think that's all your questions. Yep, that'll be it. Okay. Thank you for your time.